Live. Very least. Hey, look at us. We're live.
We're live. We did it. Yay.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Let me just share the old link around. All right.
Boo-doo, boo-doo, boop, boop, boo.
Ready to start?
Yeah.
Let's do it to it. What's going on, everybody? It is finally here. The day has come. At this point, we are 2 days away from real, meaningful NFL football. It's been a long off season. I'm ready for some football action. This weekend, we got a little teaser with some really good college football. And man, I'm getting excited more and more for Thursday night with the Lions and the Chiefs kicking things off. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by that Sultan of Spice, Mr. Peter Strauss. What is going on, man?
We're here. It's time.
It is.
It's got a little bit of a college tease this weekend. Been
Just
doing some fantasy drafting. It's a good time. I'm ready for it. Fantasy drafting definitely made work go by super fast today. So
yeah, I mean that'll help. That'll help get the eyes off the work, the mind off the work, and onto the important stuff.
My work league is 15 teams.
That's really weird. It's really weird for it to be an odd number.
Yeah, an odd number and that many. I've never had to draft that many teams before, so it's like I think I'm pretty fortunate to have the team that I have there. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the deep keeper league that I'm in with Blake, which I know some of our listeners have heard us talk about that over the last couple of years, but I believe that is either 14 or 16 teams. I think it's just 14. But there's, a crap ton of bench spots because it's a deep keeper league. And then I've done one 16-team, just regular season format fantasy league. And yeah, you pretty much start scraping the bottom of the barrel when you have that many teams.
Yeah, the perfect number is like 8 to 12. Somewhere in there is, I feel like, the perfect amount of teams.
Yeah, I think 12 is just about perfect, especially if you do a shallow bench like we do in our league. I think that's the perfect number. That's the sweet spot for sure. Well, shall we get into our awards predictions for the 2023 season before we jump into week 1?
I mean, unless you have something else planned. Otherwise, I took a lot of notes for nothing.
Let's do it, man. Let's start with probably the most obvious one, and that's going to be comeback player of the year. I think this is almost a unanimous decision, and if it's not, the people not agreeing on it should find another job and not have the right to vote. But who do you have as your comeback player of the year?
Clearly, it's Lamar. No, I'm kidding. It's the
Calvin Ridley.
Oh yeah, Calvin Ridley. Yeah.
Coming back from gambling.
Yeah, of course. No, it's gonna be Damar Hamlin unless he doesn't play the whole year. Like the man literally died on the field, like
Yeah.
and came back. There's no story can be better than that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it is weird to give comeback player of the year to a guy that went down in, what was it, week 15 or 16 of last year. It was down towards the end of last year. But it's the whole manner in which everything happened, the fact that an entire game literally got canceled because of his injury. Like it's a huge deal. And credit to him for going through everything, getting back out there on the field and pushing through, and coming back to play. Hopefully, he has a good season. And yeah, there's absolutely zero reason why it shouldn't be Damar Hamlin.
Yeah, it needs to be. Sorry, I have my thing up for the schedule predictor, and I didn't realize my volume was up, and it was playing an ad.
Oh, I mean, I don't think the mic caught it.
Yeah,
so
but now
we're
I've
good.
drawn attention to it, so you have to leave it in.
That's just that's the way it goes.
No, yeah. I mean, as far as injuries and other stuff like that goes, like I would argue that physically dying is the furthest away from being able to play that there possibly is.
Yeah.
So the fact that he came back from that, even if it was, he only missed like 3 or 4 games, like that's worth awarding that effort and being like, yeah, the sport literally killed me and I'm still going to come back and play it. Like that's such an awesome story for him.
Yeah, 100%.
And if anyone votes against that, I agree. They shouldn't be able to vote for football. They shouldn't be able to vote for president. They shouldn't be able to. They shouldn't have voting rights.
Revoke all voting rights.
Yes, they can't vote for like their school board, like superintendent. Like they can't do any of that.
Any of it. So let's go from comeback player of the year to coach of the year. The other, probably the most boring NFL award every year. It typically goes to a first year guy that overachieves. I say overachieve, does very well, or a veteran coach that is maybe coming off of a down year and has a great one, something like that. So who do you have for your 2023 NFL Coach of the Year?
So it's the most boring award. So I had to go with somebody who, in my opinion, is the most. There's a couple guys who are fun coaches, and it was really between this guy and Pete Carroll. Because I don't know, again, talking about Pete Carroll, especially this offseason, just like on the practice field, like throwing dimes, was fun to watch. But I think somebody who's in a much better position to win it is Mike McDaniel.
Okay.
I think he had a very good showing last year, made the playoffs despite the injuries with Tua. And so imagine this team if Tua stays healthy or, I think in a second year he's going to be able to.
Where did you have the Dolphins finishing in your?
So I had them just outside making the playoffs, and I think my initial thought there might have been a little harsh, because I think a lot of that when I was thinking about the schedule is like how healthy is Tua going to be.
Yeah.
So this pick is solely on, if he can deal with, like, if he's prepared for those injuries this year or
Right.
if Tua stays healthy. Because that is part of it. Like, Tua doesn't have to stay healthy. They won games with Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, can you rally this team if your quarterback, becomes Humpty Dumpty?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had the Dolphins finishing at 8 and 9, and I don't think that there's any way that that McDaniel wins it if they have that record. If he gets them into the playoffs, and certainly if they end up winning that division when you're going against the Bills and the Jets, then sure, yeah, I can buy into that hype for sure. I just don't know if they're going to do enough this year to really put him up there in consideration. But that's a little bit of a dark horse one for sure.
Yeah, and I just think about a lot of the other guys. I feel like a lot of them they might be getting credit for just like the talent assembled. And obviously the Dolphins have a lot of talent too, but I think the Dolphins have had a good bit of talent even with Brian Flores. but I think Mike McDaniel's being under Kyle Shanahan has been able to utilize that offense to the fullest of its ability. Like, and I don't think that team would be the same without him. Whereas, like, people are talking a lot about Robert Saleh, who is okay. Well, you're getting Aaron Rodgers and recreating the Green Bay Packers. Like,
Right, you're getting a dream team of people essentially.
yeah, same with. I don't know if Dennis Allen is on the list, but again, getting a new quarterback and like
Sure.
that's kind of the storyline there. Because I kind of think about it in places where the story, like, because that's how a lot of these awards go. It's like who has the best story, and I think Mike McDaniel could have the best
Yeah.
story, bouncing back from, first year having to go to the playoffs with your backup and almost beating the Bills with their backup quarterback last year. I think he could continue to elevate this team. So I'm going to go with Mike McDaniel.
Possibly. So for me, I had 3 names written down here, and I didn't initially know which one I'm gonna go with. I think I have an idea currently. I'm like 95% sold, but the names that I had written down were DeMeco Ryans, first-year head coach with the Houston Texans. I'm obviously pretty high on the Houston Texans. Blake, I know, is also right there with me. He posted in the Discord about them kind of being the Jets of last year, where it's like, okay, well, if things go right for them, this is a team that could be wild card type potential, and if things don't go right for them, then it's a 4 or 5 win team. And I'm pretty high on them. I think that would be a good one. The other 2 names I had Arthur Smith with the Atlanta Falcons. If Atlanta achieves everything that a lot of people think they will, then I think Arthur Smith has to be in consideration. And then this last one is a sneaky one that I am tempted to actually pick. This guy has never won Coach of the Year somehow, and that's Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we all know how great of a coach Mike Tomlin is. That team never has a losing record with him being there. And if they, again, it's another team, if they do everything that I think they will, have them going 12-5. If they go 12-5, I think Tomlin has to be in consideration. Having a second-year quarterback, kind of entering into that second phase of a rebuild, if you will. They never really tore it down and rebuilt completely, but moving on from Big Ben, moving into the Kenny Pickett era, going into year 2 of that, if he is able to get that team to 12-5, then he's got to be in consideration. But I like that pick. I think that would be a sneaky pick, but I'm going to ultimately go with DeMeco Ryans just because I think that he could be this year's Brian Daboll, first-year head coach. You look at what Daboll did with the Giants last year, won Coach of the Year. I think DeMeco Ryans could do the same with the Texans over in the AFC.
I do want to clarify because we talked about it in the Discord. Like, the Texans, I just don't think things are going to go right for them like everybody else
and that's fair.
thinks they are. It's not that I think like the Texans are horrible. It's just they are going to have some growing pains with a new coach and a rookie QB and a young team.
Yeah.
And I think next year they're going to be great.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be this year. But I do like the DeMeco Ryan pick. I think he is of the new head coaches this year, which there weren't that many, but I think of the new head coaches, he's in the best position to
definitely
to get that.
Yes.
And then I don't know. I'm wondering if because there's some coaches that just don't win Coach of the Year because of the talent that they've had in the past, like Andy Reid. I don't know if he won it with the Eagles. I don't think he's won it with the Chiefs though.
That'd be another one that's like if he hasn't won it, that's a shame.
Well, because I think he probably would have with the Eagles, but with the Chiefs, between having Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, people will just be like, oh, well, you have how good is the coaching? Like, do you need to be when you have Patrick Mahomes? Even though Andy Reid is one of the best offensive minds in football that we've ever seen.
I mean, I just view it as like the two go hand in hand. Like you can have a plethora of talent, but if the coaching isn't there, it's not going to do anything.
Right.
You look back at the Eagles team Gosh, I wish I could remember what year it was. I know it was the year that they were like officially, unofficially dubbed the Dream Team. It was when Vince Young uh, went over there, and they were terrible. They were awful. But there was so much hype around that team going into the season because of all of the talent they had, and they did nothing. And I don't think that was an Andy Reid year, but it, like that's you've got to have both. You can't have one without the other and succeed. Again, look at what's happening in New England with Bill Belichick. Like, great coach, fantastic coach, but he's been unsuccessful without the talent of Tom Brady at quarterback. So you've got to have both. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah, and so Mike Tomlin's still like he's having decent records with this is the first year without Ben, right? Or this past season?
This past season, yeah.
Still went back and forth on a couple quarterbacks. So I agree, if they are able to pull it off with having Kenny Pickett as their starter the full season, then I think he does deserve some credit there as well. One name I'm surprised you didn't throw out was Dan Campbell, because I feel like he's also in a great position to get Coach of the Year. If
Dan Campbell, to me, last year was the year for him to win it. I feel like he could, if they go out there and they win 12, 13 games, get a top seed in the NFC. Sure, his name should be up there. But last year, to me, was the year for him to win it. But is what it is. Let's go over to some rookies. Let's start with, you want to go offensive or defensive first?
Let's go defensive first.
Okay. Defensive rookie
I'm not
of
as
the year.
knowledgeable about defensive, and I'm going to take the obvious choice.
Who you going with for defensive rookie of the year?
I think it's got to be Jalen Carter. Like, especially with the pieces that team lost, like it's him and Jordan Davis having to go against both those guys is going to be insane. And I think the opportunity is going to be there for Jalen Carter to get some big numbers. I understand that he had his off-season issues, and if they are, true, he should get punished for those eventually.
Yeah. But
while everything is still, alleged, I can't believe that they let the Eagles get him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
insane.
That's a smart one. I believe that's the betting favorite currently. And my pick is right up there with them. For the record, this award I've correctly predicted 2 years in a row now. I predicted Micah Parsons 2 years ago, and then I turned around and predicted Sauce Gardner last year. So I'm on a 2-year streak. I gotta keep the streak going, and hopefully I will with Will Anderson Jr., the defensive end for the Houston Texans. I'm really high on this Houston team. I think they're going to be more successful than people want to give them credit for. And part of that will be Will Anderson being a lockdown defensive end that you don't want to face on the defensive line, being the face of the franchise on the defensive side, taking that mantle from J.J. Watt, who, played there for a number of years. And yeah, I have a good feeling about him lining up on that defensive line for the Texans and just wrecking offensive lines.
Yeah, I could see that. The other name I had written down was I literally looked up rookie defensive players, and I saw Jack Campbell from Iowa on the Lions, and part of me was he could be really good, but also that defense is still not great. So I don't know if that defense will get looked at enough for him to get that kind of recognition. That
would have been a sneaky one, especially lining up there next to Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, that would have been a good one. How about on the offensive side?
The offensive side, I won't take the obvious one. I feel like
I will.
I'm sure this one some people are saying, I don't think this is in any way a sneaky pick, but the Bijan pick is so obvious that any other pick seems like a sneaky pick. But I'm going to go with Zay Flowers, wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh.
And I think a big part of that is just the position that he's in. OBJ will be wide receiver 2, but he's older with some injury concern. So he'll probably, because I think Zay Flowers right now is listed wide receiver 3 behind Rashad Bateman.
Yeah.
And so I think he'll have some chance to get up and step into OBJ's spot. And even Rashad Bateman had some injury issues last year. I mean, it feels like that's the Ravens every year. But yeah, I think Zay Flowers, and especially if Lamar can stay healthy, I think Zay Flowers is in a position where he can do some incredible things with that team.
I like that pick. That's a fun one. I just looked it up just for reference. Zay Flowers is the 7th. He has the 7th best odds for offensive rookie of the year. So not going super spicy, but definitely not a name that everybody's talking about. He's sitting at plus 1,800 odds. So, you throw a hundo down on him, you're winning some money if he gets it. Yeah, you're definitely much higher on the Ravens than I am. I think the Ravens will be good. I don't have them making the playoffs. I have them just missing out. But yeah, that's a solid pick. Zay Flowers is definitely something that offense has needed for a couple of years, giving Lamar a weapon on the outside. For me, I'm taking the obvious one. I'm going Bijan. I think Bijan is just such a dynamic playmaker, and he's going to step in and make moves immediately for this Falcons team. Arthur Smith had a generational talent at running back in Tennessee to work with when he was there in Derrick Henry, and now he's got what appears to be a generational talent in Bijan Robinson to work with for his offense in Atlanta. So I feel good about this pick. I think Bijan's going to light it up immediately for that team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can say anything else really that you didn't say. Like,
yeah,
everybody, the fantasy league that we're in together, I think it still is kind
everybody
of a fight.
Wants him.
It is still kind of a fight for Bijan. Our friend who does Plug Our Disc Golf podcast for a second, Dalen, who does the other podcasts with us,
Putt Stuff.
That's P as in Peter, UTT.
Putt Stuff.
He made 2 trades to get up to the number 1 spot and took Bijan first overall. And now I think he asked me about it. I think I ultimately am not going to go for a trade, even though I have the quarterback.
Either.
I have the quarterback he wants the most. So I think you and Blake and maybe whoever else might be fighting for it still.
I think it's all Blake. I don't have enough of what I think he wants, and I'm not willing to give up enough of what he wants for Bijan. So yeah, I think Blake's going to be winning that sweepstakes.
But that is like our league was fighting over him, and I imagine I have another draft tonight. If I'm distracted later, it's because I'm doing a draft while finishing this podcast, and I'm sure it'll be the same thing. My work league, I mean, I was the 5th pick, and I was like, if Austin Eckler, Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, and Jamar Chase were all gone, I was like, I'm going to take Bijan at 5.
Yeah,
because a lot of people have high hopes for him. Hopefully the pressure is not too much. Hopefully we don't stress this kid out into having a bad year, but
yeah,
I think he can handle it. He handled it in college. I think he can handle it now.
I agree. So let's move over to the actual players of the year. Let's start with the defensive side. Defensive player of the year. Who do you have winning it?
I have 2 pretty obvious choices written down, but I think I am going to go with TJ Watt. Mainly because, again, a lot of it is story, and he missed a good chunk of last year.
Yeah.
The year before that, he tied the sack record. His brother just retired.
He's a monster.
Yeah, the dude's. I would have to find it, but I just remember seeing the record of like TJ Watt with the Steelers versus without the Steelers. Like, I think they
Yeah.
won their first game ever without TJ Watt last year.
Yeah.
Before that, they had never won a game without him, since he was in the league.
He's a difference maker for that team. Like, they need him on the field to help them win games. But yeah, you're right. I believe last year was the first year they won a game without him when he's on the sideline. So yeah, that just speaks volumes about the kind of player he is, the kind of playmaker he is on the defensive side of the field. I also went TJ Watt. Really,
Wow, you copycat.
I feel like this award. Who's the other name you had?
I had Micah Parsons, just because Micah Parsons is always also kind of a safe bet.
Yes,
because this dude's also can be anywhere on the field.
That's the thing with this award. This award to me is a 2-horse race between TJ Watt and Micah Parsons. In my opinion, those two guys are the two best defensive players in the league. The only other two guys that I think you could let me rephrase that. The only other three guys I think you could make a case for being up there in conversation consistently is Aaron Donald, who is definitely on the back half of his career. His career is winding down. That's not to say he's anywhere near retiring. I still think he's got a good couple of years left in him. But he's in the back half of his career. Myles Garrett in Cleveland, who's a monster, and Nick Bosa out in San Francisco. Like, those are the guys to me that are right up there amongst TJ and Micah. But TJ and Micah are just a step better. Those are the kinds of guys that they can do it all as linebackers. And yeah, I feel like it's TJ's year.
Yeah, I would have considered Chris Jones if he wasn't considering sitting out 8 weeks.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna get real spicy with it here, with the offensive player of the year. I've got a spicy pick. I'm going to let you go first before I jump into it, though. Who you got winning offensive player of the year?
So I have a few names written down. 2 of them obvious. 1 of them a little less obvious. The 2 names I wrote down that I'm not going to go with are Ja'Marr Chase and Christian McCaffrey. Ja'Marr Chase had some injury concerns last year, and this team, I mean, Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase together are insane.
Yeah.
So that's always a safe bet. Christian McCaffrey can do anything, and if he plays a whole season with this San Francisco team, like, he's going to have some ridiculous stats.
That's a big if, though,
but
knowing him.
I have to back my bet. And I don't think he'll be quite MVP level, but I do think Fields may do enough, Justin Fields, for Offensive Player of the Year. As much as I agree this should not be a quarterback award, I think Justin Fields, if he can, have the rushing game he had last year and put together the passing game, I think is definitely going to be deserving of this award.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for as much of a Fields hater as I am, like, I have to give it up to the guy. If he matches the expectations that are placed on him by the majority of the media, then yeah, he should absolutely be in the conversation. I just personally don't think he will, and so that's why I can't have him in the conversation for me. But the guy is electric, and if he can put it together, then yeah, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he should be in the conversation for MVP and certainly for Offensive Player of the Year. So I don't blame you at all for taking that pick. For me, this guy is 23rd on the list of betting odds for Offensive Player of the Year, and I feel like this is a little disrespectful to him. Christian McCaffrey is the betting favorite, and I understand that. He's a different dude, but the question mark with him is always going to be, can he stay on the field for 17 games? And that's such a big if for me. I don't want to be anywhere near taking that as my pick. But I'm going to go with the guy that is very similar and doesn't get talked enough in the same realm as Christian McCaffrey. And I'm going with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is coming off of back-to-back seasons in which he had over 1,500 yards from scrimmage combined between rushing and receiving, very similar to what a Christian McCaffrey does. In 2021, he had 20 overall touchdowns between rushing and receiving. In 2022, he had 18 between rushing and receiving. So you're talking about a guy that's going to get you somewhere between 15 and 20 touchdowns and 1,500 yards from scrimmage. I think he's got to be mentioned.
It is weird that like he doesn't get talked about as much for that, because when you look at, I mean, I know fantasy football and actual football are different, but he's always like the second or third like highest running back.
Yep.
Or I think he might have been first last year or the year before.
Yep.
But I mean, he's always up there with people that must be drafted. Like, he's even come out and said like, he's a team player as far as like, I think he prefers like being a receiving running back, but
yeah,
I mean, obviously we've seen him do incredible things just rushing. So
he's run CMC light, with the exception that he can actually stay on the field for the entire season.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with him. He has yet to break 1,000 yards rushing. I think if he breaks 1,000 yards rushing, that will certainly help. And then if he can add 1,000 yards receiving, which it'll just be adding another 250 really onto his receiving total, which with Kellen Moore being out there now running the offense for the Chargers, that offense honestly should be quite electric, and I think he will be a big key factor for that. So yeah, sneaky pick. Like I said, the fact that he's 23rd in betting odds is a little mind blowing to me, because he is very McCaffrey-like in the sense that he's that dual threat running back between rushing and receiving.
I'm trying to think.
So
of 22 players that I would put at. I mean, I guess it includes quarterbacks, which is
it does. Which I hate. I hate giving this award to a quarterback, and so for me, that's why I can't pick one to predict. But 9 times out of 10, it ends up going to the second best quarterback, unless one quarterback just has a crazy year, and then they end up winning both this and MVP. But I don't like that. I wanted to give it to a running back or a wide receiver that goes off, and I think Eckler's due for a very big year.
Well, I got him on one of my fantasy teams, so I hope he does.
Well, there you go. Let's jump over to the biggest award, MVP. Who do you have winning it?
I wrote down 2 names.
Well, can I guess one of them?
Yeah.
Patty Mahomes.
I did not put down Patrick Mahomes.
I mean,
so,
can we just rename this the Patrick Mahomes Award? Like, as long as he's in the league, it's his award to lose. Like, honestly.
So I agree. And I have purposefully left the Kansas City Chiefs out of the awards altogether, because I knew if I could, like, picking Patrick Mahomes to an MVP is like, obviously it's the favorite, it's the obvious choice.
It's boring.
Yeah, like how we think like you know what? I'm not going to get into the disc golf stuff right now. You know what I'm going to say.
I do know what you're going to say.
So I have a couple of little of more fun picks that I think are entirely possible, especially with a lot of the teams that Mahomes is playing. His stats might not quite be what they were last year. And I think a couple other teams have some easier schedules, and those quarterbacks are talented enough to get some crazier stats.
All right.
And so I'm trying to decide between those two.
Well, I can give you mine first if you would like.
Okay. Who's yours?
I'm going with, in my opinion, the second best quarterback in the AFC, and that's Mr. Joe Cool out in Cincinnati, man. Old Joey B. Joe Burrow getting the job done. As long as he can stay healthy and Jamar Chase is out there on the field tearing it up, like, I think he's going to have an incredible season.
It is weird because Joe Burrow has only been in the league, I think, or being a starter anyway, 1 less year than Mahomes, or 2?
I want to say this is going to be year 4.
He had that 1 year where
5?
he got injured like week 3. That doesn't really count, but
Yeah, let me just double check that real quick.
But it's crazy to think about, like, because of Mahomes, Joe Burrow hasn't been able to win
This will be year 4.
any awards really.
Yeah, and like listen to these stats. So we talked about 2020. He got injured, missed some time down the stretch, but 2021, 16 games played, he had a 70.4% completion percentage, which is outstanding. 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Last year, 16 games, 68.3% completion percentage, or just a little bit less. 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Like, very consistent, very similar. I think if he could knock the interceptions down just a touch, maybe get down to single digits and up the touchdowns just a hair, possibly approach that 40 number, then I think he's going to be firmly in MVP talks.
Are you laughing at what I'm laughing at?
Yeah. We're good.
Do you want me to fix that?
No, we're good.
Okay. If you guys hear a dog dying in the background, it's not dying. She's just a whiny little girl. Yeah, I do like the Joe Burrow pick. Again, I talked about this last week, how he's the only Bengal I like, and he's a very good player. And I don't know if part of last year was just because they got off to a little bit of a slow start, because they started 0-4 and then had to claw their way back to the top of the division to go to the playoffs. But if they can keep momentum rolling all year this year, especially with a little bit more protection to maybe not take as many sacks, I think he's in a good place to win that award.
Yeah.
Somebody else last year, or a whole team anyway, that got off to a slow start. I've made my decision.
All right.
I'll tell you the quarterback I wrote down that I didn't choose was Lamar Jackson. Although I was very close. If Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, I think he can show his, like, when he won MVP in 2019, I think he can show that kind of skill again. But I'm going with a little more fun pick. And I haven't looked at, like, the rankings of where people are. I don't know if this person is being considered by anybody to be MVP.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of shocked if he wasn't at least on the list somewhere. But I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence.
That's fair.
I think the Jags are in a really good position to win that division. I think he's not playing a lot of crazy defenses. I think if he can keep the momentum going from where they were at the end of last season, that he can do some extraordinary things. And I think he very easily could be MVP of this league and be the player that everybody said he was going to be when he came out of Clemson.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I thought about him as a potential pick. I just think it might be a year too soon for him. He made some great progression from year 1 to year 2. And I want to see the same from year 2 to year 3. But his numbers last year were right there with some of the best. 66.3% completion percentage, just over 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 8 picks. Obviously, the touchdowns, he's going to have to bump that number up. I think that in today's league, you've got to be hovering around that 40 touchdown mark to be in consideration. If you're strictly a passing quarterback, if you're a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, one of those type guys, then that touchdown number can be down a little bit. But if you're a more traditional pocket passing type QB, you've got to be up around that 40 touchdown number, and ideally you want the interceptions to be in single digits. So if he can do that, then yeah, sure. I think he can absolutely be in consideration for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, they gave him another playmaker too this year with Calvin Ridley, so as long as he's not too rusty from essentially taking 2 entire seasons off, that's just another weapon for him to be able to do that with. So it's also, for me, second year with Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is a fantastic coach.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I think he could very easily win MVP. I don't know if that's a spicy pick. I don't know where he is in those odds
He's
lists.
he's definitely getting talks. Let me pull up MVP. He's not initially on this list I have pulled up, but I have heard him in talks somewhat. So there is a conversation out there to be had for Lawrence for MVP. So it's not exceptionally spicy, but it's a little bit of a dark horse for sure. Um, I said that MVP was the big award, but obviously the biggest award would be taking home the Lombardi. So let's jump into Super Bowl prediction. What's the matchup and who's winning it? Who you got?
I don't know when the last time this has happened is, but I think it is very possible that we get a Super Bowl rematch with Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
I think it's super possible. And part of it is the road that I have in the NFC playoffs. The Eagles have a pretty easy path.
Yeah.
Kansas City will be a little tougher, but this is why I left them out of the out of the awards, is because I wanted to home pick them to win the Super Bowl like I do every year. Last year I was right. Got to defend my Super Bowl predicting abilities. So I do think this year's in New Orleans, right? Is that the Caesar Dome? Or Caesar, whatever it's called?
Yes. I think. Let me look it up. Keep going.
But yeah, Philadelphia have a little bit of loss at a defense, but that offense is still incredible. Still have probably the best center in football. Jason Kelce was talking about it on his podcast where he NFL Top 100 went from like 71st to 37th, and he was like, no center should be rated 37th in the NFL Top 100. But I mean, he is one of the most, at the very least, electric centers. Like he's a bit small as compared to other centers, but I mean, he can.
Vegas.
It helps. Oh, this year's Vegas?
Yep.
I think next year is New Orleans, maybe.
Allegiant Stadium out in Vegas.
But I think Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts, I think will still improve. I'm sure he's being talked about for MVP as well.
Yeah, definitely.
They still got AJ Brown. They still have Devontae Smith. They've picked up DeAndre Swift from Philadelphia, who's a great running back.
Yeah.
We talked about having the duo of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter on defense. That team is still going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC. I feel like their only real competition is the 49ers.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to
So Chiefs Eagles with the Chiefs winning again.
Chiefs taking it again. And a lot of people are going to be mad at me, but I can't root against them.
It's a homer pick.
Not when they're this hot. I have to pick them all to win Super Bowls while I can.
That's fair. For me, so when I did the whole season schedule play out where I predicted all the games, I also predicted the playoffs, and I'm going to stick with what I had there. I don't know how much I love it though. To me, the AFC is pretty wide open. I think I could make the case for about 5 or 6 teams in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. In the NFC, it is a lot smaller. While I do like the Falcons, I like the Lions. I just don't think that like they're there yet with the likes of an Eagles or Niners. And honestly, I don't think the Cowboys are there either. I think it really comes down to Philly and San Francisco again. And to me, San Francisco kind of got cheated out of a fair fight with Brock Purdy getting injured pretty early on in that game. Which maybe cheated is the wrong word. It's how it goes. Like you've got to be prepared for injuries. But regardless, they didn't have their starter that carried them into the playoffs to finish that game for them. I want to see them do it again because I think that San Francisco could have won that game. And that's who I have coming out of the NFC is the 49ers. On the AFC side, I feel like this is a very popular pick, and I don't like picking it because of how popular of a pick it is, but I'm going with the New York Jets.
Ooh.
I'm taking the Jets and the Niners in a Super Bowl. I think that would be a fun matchup. We get to see Aaron Rodgers with a new team facing the team that seemingly knocked him out of the playoffs every single season. If it wasn't the Seahawks, it was the 49ers. So that already makes for a good storyline, and I think that the Jets are going to be a very, very good team just because of how talented they are on both sides of the field. And so that's why I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl, for Rodgers to get number 2.
This is
somehow
a secret homer pick.
Somehow Rodgers leaves Green Bay, and I'm still picking him to win a freaking another Super Bowl. It is what it is. Just how the chips fell.
I can't pick the Packers, so I guess I'll just pick Aaron Rodgers. Your super secret homer pick.
Sure, we'll call it that. We'll call it that. All right. Well, that is our predictions for the 2023 season. And now, for the first time this year, I get to say, hey man, let's get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
On Thursday night, September 7th, over on NBC, we have the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs playing host to one of the more intriguing teams from the 2022 season, the Detroit Lions. The Lions obviously coming off their last win of the season to knock out the division rival Green Bay Packers to keep them out of the playoffs. Going into Arrowhead to face Patty Mahomes and company, trying to make it back-to-back Super Bowl wins. The Chiefs currently 5-point favorites. That's 100% fair. More times than not, the home team does win the opening kickoff games. There's just something about raising the banner. You got all the pomp and circumstance, just everybody feeling it, vibing. Kansas City ain't going to lose that game, right? Who you got, man?
I don't know if Patrick Mahomes has ever lost a Week 1 game either, like for whether on the road or. And yeah, the home teams typically don't lose Week 1. There are some things against the Chiefs. Obviously, we literally just got news today. Travis Kelce hyperextended his knee.
Yep.
More than likely will not be able to play. Chris Jones is also still on the please pay me bandwagon, even though he could just play and win another Super Bowl. And I don't get it. Like, you watch Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, guys who are like willing to like get paid a little less or make their contracts like flexible to win championships. And then I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into that. That being said, Chris Jones on the defense for this game, I think is definitely hurts. Our defense is young anyway, and the Lions offense is still super strong. So I think at the end of the day, like that was still going to be hurtful anyway, even with Chris Jones there. As far as not having Travis Kelce on the offense, it does bring up an interesting thing of who do the Lions cover? Because before it was like you had a clear target. You put 2 people on Kelce, and you spread out everyone else.
Well, just
who do you cover?
Else.
Who do you cover if you're this Lions defense? This not great Lions defense. I think not great is too nice.
you just cover everybody else because so in my opinion, Kansas City's already going to be I don't want to say struggling to find like a true wide receiver one, but like Juju left. That was about 1,000 yards of Patrick Mahomes passing yards last season were to Juju. McCall Hardman left. McCall Hardman wasn't much of a factor last year.
He was hurt, like he was in and out basically.
We all know how I feel about MVS. He's good for 4 games a year. Obviously, he was good for much more than that for Patrick Mahomes. But I don't see MVS as a true number one. You do have Tony there now. You've got Sky Moore. So there's options, but in my opinion, none of them are like a true number one guy like Kelsey was.
But again, that's the thing. You have an entire team of wide receiver twos. Like
I don't even know if they're wide receiver. Like wide receiver twos being generous. Like don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes can make lemonade out of any lemons.
That's what
for
I'm saying,
sure
with Patrick Mahomes, because like he's had Kelsey and Tyreek Hill, and then everyone
100%,
else is just wide receiver too.
Yes.
This year, it's all for being a wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. They're all wide receiver twos.
Sure.
And so that's like Kadarius Toney had great chemistry when he came over to the team. Sky Moore at the end of the year had great chemistry. Justin Watson was great pretty much the whole year.
Right.
MVS had a lot of big plays.
I guess
Justin Ross is going to be healthy. We have Rashee Rice.
I guess what I'm saying is that there's not any one clear-cut big play threat, so you just cover everybody like normal.
Yeah.
And when somebody starts making big plays consistently, then that's when you can
then
say,
they
okay,
double team that
let's
guy, and then
double-team
he
that
just
guy.
chooses a different guy.
Potentially. Yeah.
Because Andy Reid is still whoever's playing tight ends. Like I think we still have Noah Gray and Blake Bell, who both like had some big plays last year, and Andy Reid is going to get those guys open with his play calling.
So
I still am going to take the Chiefs. Obviously, like Lions, I'm going to root for you every single other game this year, just not this one. Let's get the hurt out of the way early, and then you guys can go on a run. But I think the Chiefs hold it this week.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get the maracas a going because I'm starting 2023 out spicy, baby. And I'm going with Motor City Dan Campbell firing up that group from Detroit. I've got the Lions heading into Arrowhead and getting the upset win over Kansas City. Patty Mahomes going to be struggling to find someone to throw to. Don't get me wrong, the man can still pass to anybody, but that receiving core is getting smaller and smaller as far as big name, big play threats go. So give me the Detroit Lions. I know that defense is still on the rise. They're still figuring things out, but I think they're going to be in a better position this year than they were last year, and that offense should just continue to roll as one of the best offenses in the league. This will could potentially end up being a shootout, and man, Jared Goff won the last one. That's all I'm saying. Jared Goff won the last one. I don't know if it was the last one between them actually, but the last one that everybody remembers.
The last big shootout, yeah.
Yep.
Well, that game was in his home stadium, and this game is in Mahomes' home stadium.
True.
So.
That Arrowhead crowd is what worries me the most with picking Detroit, but I like the Lions, man. I'm giving them a win out the gate.
And again, I don't want to like argue with it too much. Like obviously I disagree with you, but I do like the Lions a lot, and I hope it's one of the best season openers we've ever seen. I hope even if the Lions lose,
I hope it's fun.
I hope even if the Lions lose that they feel good about that game.
Yeah.
And can go into the rest of the season and be the team that we want them to be. Now again, the Jamal Williams thing feels like a curse with getting rid of the guy who broke Barry Sanders' record.
This is true.
The seat, like right after it happened, the guy who basically was the most vocal heart of that team, maybe besides their coach.
Yeah.
But I got high hopes for them, just not this week.
Well, we got 15 more games to get to, full slate of action this weekend. So let's jump over to the Sunday games, starting us off at 1 p.m. over on CBS. We're heading out to Cleveland, baby, for year 2 of Massage Boy and Company. We've got Joe Burrow and the bunch heading into town to take on the Cleveland Browns in the dog pound in Cleveland. Cincy on the road, 2.5-point favorites. I like it. I think they're the better team. But I ask you, good sir, who do you got, man?
Only 2.5?
Only 2.5.
That seems, I don't know. I am very biased against the Browns.
You
for
are.
obvious reasons. But I'm also biased against the Bengals. Like, the only difference is I know the Bengals are a good team. I'm not delusional about that.
Yeah.
Give me the Bengals. They got off to a slow start last year. I don't think that will happen this year. I think they still have a fire under them. You know, they didn't like the ending of that game with the Chiefs, and they're gonna, how their season ended last year. And I think they're gonna carry that flame into this. And I don't think Massage Boy is going to be what he was when he was on the Texans. So I think the Bengals offense is still, even with how good the Browns defense is, I think the Bengals offense is still too good. And I think the Bengals defense is good enough to take care of pretty much just the rushing attack from the Browns.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're in agreement on this one. I've got the Bengals winning this one as well. We're both kind of low, you more so than me, on this Browns team anyways. For as much talent as they seem to have, it just appears as if the team is in disarray. So yeah, give me the Cincy boys coming into town and getting the dub. I like it. Let's go from Cleveland down to the ATL, where we have the Falcons making moves in the offseason. A lot of hype, a lot of good vibes coming out of Atlanta towards this Falcons team, and we have a division rival, and the Carolina Panthers also on the rise, heading in to Atlanta to take on these Atlanta Falcons at home. The Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. I think that might be a little low. I think the Falcons are a better team, at least on paper, than this Panthers team is. But I ask you, who you got, man?
Let me scroll back down here. So here's my problem, is for some reason my progress did not save correctly on my NFL schedule predictor thing.
Well, just vibe with it, man. Who you feeling?
So my vibe is going to be the Atlanta Falcons for week 1. It's, again, home opener. I think they are the more talented team. They got that Bijan hype. I don't know what Carolina's doing really on defense that, scares me. So, yeah, give me the Falcons there.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I've got the Falcons win the division, so they got to start putting some wins together to get there, and I think it starts in week 1, getting a nice divisional win over this Carolina Panthers team. I am excited to see Bryce Young in his debut, see how he looks, but even probably more so excited to see how Desmond Ridder looks in year 2 and with the full off season of that team being his team, being the guy in that building. So a lot of good storylines to look for in this game as far as young guys stepping up and making some debuts. But I think old Honey Bijan is going to be making some plays for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's week 1 against a weak defense. He's going to do what he did in college. We'll see if he carries that on through the rest of the season, but
yep.
I think he's got it.
Yep. Well, let's go out to Indianapolis, where we have the Jacksonville Jaguars making their way up to Indy to take on this lackluster Indy crew. Tickets are as low as $32. If you want to go see a home opener, I feel like that's probably the lowest of the weekend because this Colts team has got nothing good going for them. And surprisingly, on the road, Jacksonville are only 5-point favorites. I feel like they should be much higher. Who do you got, man?
Duval. Yeah, taking the Jags.
100%.
This is one of those teams where I don't know what's happening on defense, and Trevor Lawrence could have a field day with getting chemistry with Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
I think also the Colts are cursed at home against the Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken, that they just automatically lose that game every year, no matter how good the Colts are or how bad the Jaguars are. So yeah, give me the Jags.
Yeah, I'm also rolling with the Jags. Listen, I'll probably be picking very few games in favor of this Colts team because I think they're that bad. But I guess they're probably going to win at least one or two. I don't think it happens opening week against this Jacksonville squad, which is looking like one of the top contenders in the AFC.
I mean, they do play the Texans and the Titans twice, so.
True. From one Midwest city to another, let's go up to Minneapolis. I can't speak right now, but we're going to Minnesota where we have Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into town to take on the Minnesota Vikings at home. Minnesota are 6-point favorites. That's probably fair. This Buccaneers team is also very similar to the Colts, just in a bad spot. They're in rough shape. They're tanking for Caleb Williams, obviously. Who do you got, man?
This could be, with how much the Vikings defense lost and how much talent the Bucs still have on offense, I think this could be a sneaky shootout. If Baker Mayfield is on his...
I like it.
It's not prime time, so obviously Kirk Cousins is going to ball out. Baker Mayfield is known to ball out occasionally.
Yep.
Week one on a new team against a weak defense, when you have... I think Mike Evans might be hurt, but you still have Chris Godwin. You still have Rashad White, their second-year running back, who looked great when he was in last year.
True.
I think there could be some success there against one of the worst defenses in the league. That all being said, I'm still going to take the Vikings to win. There's still just too much talent on that offense, and if Baker slips up once with that defense, they're done for. You still got Kirk Cousins, 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. You have Justin Jefferson, Alexander Madison. I don't see this team losing at home to, in my opinion, the worst team in the league in the Buccaneers.
Yeah. For now, Kirk, I do like it, and I'm picking you in week one.
I like that.
This Vikings team is very tough for me because I do still have a lot of faith in that offense because I think it's one of the better ones in the NFC, but that defense is so worrisome. So it's going to cost them games, but it's not going to cost them games against an offense like Tampa Bay. So give me the Vikings all day in this matchup. Let's head on down to New Orleans, the Caesars Superdome, on a battle between AFC South, NFC South. We have the Tennessee Titans making their way into New Orleans to take on the Saints at home. The Saints are 3-point favorites. The Titans are god-awful and will be god-awful all year, in my opinion. Maybe they'll sneak out a couple of wins. I don't see it happening. Who you got, man?
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. I'm a big believer in the Saints team.
Maybe too big of a believer.
I like the Derek Carr, Jamal Williams story of like being the hearts of their teams and still getting rejected, and now they're gonna go form their own cool team. I would do the Futurama reference, but I don't know if I can say that profession on a family podcast. which does fit New Orleans also. But anyway, yeah, give me New Orleans in this one. I think Derek Carr, Jamal Williams, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, if he'll stay healthy one game, right?
Sure.
I just think they're going to be too much for this Titans team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't like it, but I'm picking the Saints. I don't like it because I don't like.
Did I hear some Blake coming out of you over there?
I don't like picking either one of these teams because I think both of them are not great. But I do like Derek Carr, do like Jamal Williams, and I do want to see them be successful. So give me New Orleans in this one. Let's head up to Pittsburgh. We've got the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy's back, baby. Mr. Irrelevant is relevant once again, leading the way into Pittsburgh to take on TJ Watt in the Pittsburgh Steelers. San Francisco on the road, 2.5-point favorites. I think Vegas is kind of a little high on this Steelers team, as am I. We'll get to my pick in a second, but first, who you got, man?
So kind of the opposite of like the Chiefs-Lions. I could see this game being a defensive battle with both of them having second-year quarterbacks. However, the 49ers offense is slightly more talented. TJ Watt can only keep up with so many people. When you got to worry about Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel in the backfield, and then also Brandon Ayuk still running routes, and who could probably be a wide receiver 1 on a bunch of teams, still wide receiver 2 technically for the 49ers.
Yeah.
And also not a better coach, but I would say like a smarter offensive football mind to get around that defense of the Steelers. So I'm going to take the 49ers in this one.
Let me just warm up the maracas over here. Get that nice shake because I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers, baby.
Wow.
Now listen, I'm high on this team. I've got them going 12-5. They've got to get some wins somewhere. And listen, I like the Niners as well. Obviously, I just picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but I think the Steelers at home in Pittsburgh, there's going to be some magic flowing in that stadium. Kenny Pickett's going to get some touchdowns to George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. Najee Harris going to have a little bit of a time on the field running the ball. That defense is going to be stopping Brock and the boys. I like it. Give me Pittsburgh.
I do hope Najee Harris has a bounce back year because he had a great rookie year and then kind of spittled out last year. So hopefully he can have a bounce back year this year. That's a fun pick. Maybe if it were still Heinz Field, I'd be a little bit more behind it. But I don't even know what their stadium is called now, but it's too long to be like
Acrisure Stadium.
Hype opening game at Acrisure Stadium. No, it's the energy's not there. The energy's not there for me to be behind that.
I feel that. Well, let's head on down to Maryland, FedEx Field to be exact. Hey, it's a new era in Washington football. The team has been sold. Dan Snyder's out the building. We don't even have to mention his name ever again. And what do they get in week 1? A nice cupcake game in the Arizona Cardinals coming to town to take on this Washington Commanders team. This Washington team is 7-point favorites at home because the Cardinals are le stinky poo-poo. Who you got, man?
You don't think Joshua Dobbs can pull it off?
No. Get out of here.
No, I was perhaps too harsh to the Commanders when I did my scheduling. Dobbs is their starter. Just gives me even more reason to pick the Commanders here. They're going to, how do you say, have a commanding victory. Ha 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 ha.
Hey, say all of that again because OBS wanted to disconnect and then reconnect.
Oh, my God.
Who you got, man?
So, I was extremely harsh with the Commanders when I was doing my schedule predictor, and the schedule predictor I did like a month ago, right?
Yeah.
From the very beginning, I did have the Commanders winning this game. They're especially, the Cardinals' decision to drop Colt McCoy and have Joshua Dobbs as their starter is like the most blatant way of tanking for Caleb without actually saying that they're tanking for Caleb. So yeah, give me the Commanders. They're going to, how you say, have a commanding victory.
Yeah,
and I had an opportunity to not say that again, and I said it again anyway.
I don't think this game is going to be in any way, shape, or form indicative of the season that the Commanders are going to have. I think there are some people out there that are giving this team way too much love, but they will get the job done in week 1 because they're facing a garbage team in the Arizona Cardinals. So give me the Commanders to get the job done on Sunday.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I was when I did my schedule predictor, this was the only game I had them winning. So
yeah, which is fair. Which is fair. Well, hey, we're going to stay in Maryland and just go about an hour up the road to Baltimore, where we have maybe the fun, maybe the frisky Houston Texans. Maybe it's a little too early to start declaring that, but I've got a good feeling about them. The Houston Texans making their way out to Baltimore. DeMeco Ryans making his debut as head coach, going up against one of the better head coaches in the league in John Harbaugh. The Baltimore Ravens, 10-point favorites at home. Let's come on, Vegas. Let's give a little bit of love to this Texans team. Who you got, man?
Vegas just knows what I know, and that this team is not quite ready to compete with the big boys. The Ravens are one of the biggest boys in the AFC, with one of the biggest boy quarterbacks in the AFC. Give me the Ravens. Nobody is hurt yet, so this is like the best this team is going to be, and I don't think the Texans are going to be able to keep up with it.
I'm slightly uncomfortable with the amount of times you said "big boy" in that statement, but
Why, you got a problem with big boys?
I'll allow it. I'll allow it for now. But easy now. I'm watching you. All right. And, it's a good thing I've got my maraca hand warm over here because I'm picking the Ravens. I like this Texans team. I like them, but I don't think they start the season with a win against Baltimore. I think Baltimore's just too good. And Baltimore's another team that is up there amongst the better teams in the AFC, could certainly make a run if things go their way. So, yeah, give me the Ravens in this matchup.
Yeah, if you picked you were about to take the Sultan of Spice thing from me. If you picked the Texans to win this week, like I understand, like I might be a little too mean to them, but they're not winning this game.
No, I don't. I mean, it'd be fun if they do, but I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
Let's head up to the NFC North for a classic division rivalry game. We have the new, refreshed, revamped Green Bay Packers heading in to take on the media darling Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in Chicago. At home, the Bears 1-point favorites. 1-point favorites. You better enjoy it while it lasts, Chicago, because you ain't going to be favored in a lot of games. But lucky for you, Vegas has not seen Jordan Love and the boys line up yet in an actual NFL game. So it could get interesting. Who you got, man?
Sometimes I feel like I have a spicy pick, and then I hear the odds, and I'm like, man, they agree with me? Like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Like, because when was the last time that the Bears beat the Packers? When was the last time that happened?
It's been a minute. It has happened a handful of times over the years, but
Has it happened with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, it has. But Aaron Rodgers owns that team. That he has a great record against them. He is their daddy for sure. the cheesy daddy.
Well,
But
he went out to get the milk and never returned, so give me the Bears. Give me the Bears at home, week 1, with the hype. Green Bay, their franchise quarterback has been sitting on his butt for 3 years and is going to have to get in the groove if they want to, get ahead of the game and possibly still not be last in the division. So
I don't know if it is a homer pick, but I'm taking Green Bay in this one. I guess it kind of is, but like I also just don't believe in the Bears. So call me a homer if you want.
But Devin, you can't say duh Packers. That's just not as cool. Duh Bears.
Well, Bears are gonna lose on Sunday at 4:25 over on Fox. Let's continue. We have the Las Vegas Raiders heading up to Denver to take on Sean Payton's team in the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, year 1 head coach, making his debut in Denver with Russell Wilson and the boys at home. Denver, 3.5-point favorites. We got Jimmy G heading up against Russell Wilson. They know each other very well. Had many a classic showdown between San Francisco and Seattle, but these are new teams. It's a new division, new head coaches they're playing for. Is this a game to watch? I don't know. It might be kind of boring.
It's not a game.
Who
to
you
watch.
got,
I
man?
can tell you right now, if this is the local game that you get on Sunday, just take a nap.
Well, just go get Red Zone somehow and watch something else.
And if you can't afford Red Zone, take a nap. Or get the much cheaper Disc Golf Network and watch whatever also probably boring Silver Series they'll have on this weekend. I don't like either of these teams. And it's not even... I was a believer in the Raiders last year. Even as a Chiefs fan, I thought the Raiders were in a spot to be more successful than the Broncos. I didn't think they were quite going to make the playoffs, or maybe I did have them second, actually. Maybe I did. I can't remember. Anyway, not this year. Not with what we saw from Josh McDaniels. I don't care what numbers Blake throws at me in the Discord. Jimmy G is not anywhere near as good as Derek Carr. Jimmy G was successful because of Kyle Shanahan's offense. He's not going to be able to throw the ball deep enough to make Devontae Adams matter. Josh Jacobs is their only hope. I don't think it's going to be enough against that still scary Denver defense. So I'm going to take the Broncos in this game.
Yeah. I also have the Broncos, but that's also because I'm just on the fire Josh McDaniels train. I'm going to get that going early, starting in week 1. Let's get Josh McDaniels out the building because I want the Raiders to be good. The Raiders are a team that I want to cheer for because I do like a handful of those players. But Josh McDaniels is a pile of garbage that should have gotten canned last year, but they can't because they keep canning guys and don't have the money to go get new ones.
Well,
they still have to pay the other guys.
Hold on. To be fair, they had to let John Gruden go. That wasn't their fault.
Sure. I'll agree with that. But they should have kept Bisaccia in the building and given him the job. But nope, they went out and made a deal with the devil for Josh McDaniels, give him another try, and he's a pile of garbage. He was a pile of garbage in Denver, and he's going to get a loss against his old team on Sunday. Give me the Broncos.
Yeah, just skip this game if you can. It's going to be like a Broncos. Yeah, no, this is Jimmy G against the Broncos where he lost because he stepped out of bounds for a safety. Yeah, it's going to be that game. So skip it if you can.
All right. Let's head over to Foxborough where we have the reigning NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles heading into Foxborough to take on Mac Jones and the boys and the New England Patriots. On the road, Philly 4-point favorites. I think that says everything you need to know about what Vegas thinks of this Patriots team. I agree, Vegas. This Patriots team is not great. And I don't think Bill O'Brien is going to be the offensive savior that everybody thinks he will be, because he was a pile of garbage down in Houston, and I didn't think he was a good coordinator in college. So why would that transfer over to the NFL?
Yeah. Weirdly, I
Who?
think the. Sorry, did I interrupt you saying who do you got, man?
Who you got, man?
Thank you. It's weird because I think with Bill O'Brien, they are in a better position to do, like, just having anybody be offensive coordinator as opposed to having Matt Patricia and whatever the heck Bill Belichick's son is.
The Gremlin.
I don't like making fun of people for how they look, but
he's a freaking gremlin.
he's not a lizard person. He's a frog person
Sure.
it's a frog with a mullet. No, it's weird because like having somebody that actually make the offensive decisions and going out and getting Juju Smith-Schuster, I think are both good moves that should improve their offense. And getting Zeke as well to back up Ramondre Stevenson. However, I think, I don't know if it's just their schedule is harder or what it is, but there's not very many games that I just see that are winnable for them this year. And this one definitely is not winnable for them. This is this is the Eagles coming off the Super Bowl loss. Even though the Patriots defense is always very good, nobody can stop that quarterback sneak. I don't know if they have anybody who can stop the duo of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So, yeah, give me the Eagles.
Yep. I'm with you. Very easy decision. You went on way too long of a rant to give me that pick because it was a very easy game to pick. Philly all the way. Next up, let's go out to L.A., where we have Tua and the Miami Dolphins head into town to take on Justin Herbert and the boys in the LA Chargers. Chargers 3-point favorites at home. Probably going to be a fairly even game, I would imagine. I like both of these teams. I think the Chargers are slightly better. I also think the Chargers are due for a pretty good season. But who you got, man?
I am going to take the upset here and go with the Miami Dolphins. I can't explain why. Like I said, my NFL predictor got messed up. And maybe it's because I picked Mike McDaniel for Coach of the Year. I don't know. But the Dolphins just feel like, and it's the same with the Chargers too, both of these teams, if they can stay healthy, both teams are going to be great. I think I'm just mainly giving the edge to the Dolphins because they're, I think, a bit more well put together and I think have a better coach. So I'm going to give the edge to the Dolphins here.
Well, I disagree with most of that, but I think I think the Chargers are the better team. I like them a lot more than I like this Dolphins team, but I do think the Dolphins have a ton of talent that you do have to be careful with. And you have to watch out for, and I think the defense is going to have their hands full with that Miami offense, but I think they can get it done, and I think that the Chargers offense is just elite level. As long as everybody's healthy, everybody's out there playing. This is a team that should be a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, give me LA in this one.
Agree to disagree.
Okay. Let's head up to Seattle where we have the other LA team, the Rams, or whatever's left of the Rams, heading up to Seattle to take on the Seahawks at Lumen Field. The Seahawks at home are 5-point favorites. That's probably fair. This Rams team is, I don't know who's worse between the Rams and Cardinals right now. They're both in such disarray.
The Rams at least have a quarterback.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, if they don't have Matthew Stafford, they have Stetson Bennett, who I still think is better than Joshua Dobbs.
This is true. You're making a good point. But who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Seattle. That's a pretty
100%.
easy choice. Geno Smith coming off a career year. They had a really good draft. They have a really good second-year running back. They still have one of the best wide receiver duos with Metcalf and Lockett, and then are adding JSN to that.
Yep.
That's gonna be an insane team.
Yep.
So yeah, give me the Seahawks.
I agree. Give me the Seahawks all day in this matchup. Hey, Geno, he ain't right back. But he did cash that check that he got in the offseason in a big contract. So, yeah, give me Geno Smith and the boys. Let's head on out to New Jersey for some Sunday night football. It's week 1 of the NFL when we're getting an NFC East matchup on Sunday Night Football, because that's what they always freaking do, shoving it down our throats. We got the Dallas Cowboys heading into MetLife to take on the New York Giants. And listen, this NFC East team, this NFC East division is on the upswing, so I'm okay with this for now. But watch yourself, NBC, because I don't like it every year. Dallas on the road, 3.5-point favorites. Who you got, man?
You know what? Let's take the prime time upset here and go with the New York Football Giants. And part of that is the Cowboys just feel weird right now. I feel like there's a weird energy in the air around Dak Prescott's, how secure his job is. Losing a couple key pieces. Like they still have CeeDee Lamb, obviously. Tony Pollard also had a breakout. Like they still have a fantastic defense. But something feels weird there. And I feel like what Daboll did with the Giants last year and the people they were able to get on that team this year. And you still got Saquon Barkley, who's one of the more versatile players. And if Daniel Jones can get a little more comfortable and take a few more risks, I think this team can be something. Despite how I scheduled them, I think I originally had them losing this game, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to have them win.
Listen, Giants, just show me something. Because I very much believe last season was more of a fluke than it was you guys actually being something. Now, credit to the front office. They went out and got some big names. Darren Waller at tight end is going to be huge for that team. But I just don't have faith in these guys yet. I'm not buying the hype. I'm not buying into it. So if you want to show me something, this is just the week to do it, because the Dallas Cowboys should be a heavy hitter in the NFC. I think they're still probably a step behind San Francisco and Philly, just because I don't know how much I trust Dak. My trust in Dak is going down as each year goes by, and so I'm losing faith. As we've talked before, this Cowboys window is probably closing. So this is the time to go out and show me something. I'm not picking you, despite the Sultan making his pick, but I'm rolling with Dallas. But this is the time to show me something, New York, because I'm not against believing in you. I just can't right now. I'm not buying the hype. I don't think you're going to have more success this year than you did a year ago. I think you're going to be probably around the same, because you're just kind of mediocre. You just kind of hang around. But maybe you can make some moves. Do it on Sunday night. That's all I'm saying.
Let's get some week 1 primetime magic with this game and maybe another game.
Well, that brings us to Monday Night Football. We're staying in New Jersey because we've got the New York Jets hosting the Buffalo Bills in a nice divisional matchup. I think this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a spicy one. We got Josh Allen out there. We got Aaron Rodgers out there. Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson. Just fun to be had. Buffalo, 2.5-point favorites on the road. Ooh, who you got, man?
This is, I think, one of the games I've thought about the most.
Yeah, it's a tough
that
one.
I've been back and forth on.
It's a toughie.
Obviously, the Bills have been one of the top dogs in the AFC for, pretty much since Tom Brady left the AFC. They've been the top of the division.
Yep.
But they had a little bit of a slow start last year, and their momentum's going to be a little weird because of how I think basically the Bills are going to have to work to get back to being as terrifying as they were. And I think the Jets have made a lot of really good moves. So I'm going to say, give me another upset on Monday Night Football. I'm going to take the New York Jets.
It does feel weird that the Jets are the upset pick because I'm also going with New York in this one. I guess it is because of just like how historically good Buffalo has been over the last 3 years. And listen, I'm here for that. I love this Buffalo team, as I talked about last year, and I think probably the year before. This team's a lot of fun. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's always fun to watch. That defense has been ridiculous. And obviously this is the first game back with the inevitable comeback player of the year, DeMar Hamlin. So that's another storyline to watch there. But this Jets team they've made the right moves. They've brought in the pieces. They've drafted well. They've got arguably a top 10 quarterback of all time. I would say even top 5 quarterback of all time that you brought in Aaron Rodgers. And as I said last year, this is a team that was a quarterback away from being a championship contending team, and they've got that quarterback now in Rodgers, and I feel like the Jets are due for a great season. And it starts on Monday night, and this is luckily we get this matchup again later on in the year because I think this is going to be a fun one in the AFC to watch, is Buffalo versus New York. But for the first matchup of the year, give me New York.
Yeah, I also have this as a wild card game in the playoffs.
I think I did too. I had them meeting up in the playoffs. I think maybe in the divisional round. But yeah,
it just feels like New York is starting to step into, New York and Miami both feel like they're making their way up, and this kind of feels like a do or die year for the Bills. Because I feel like Stephon Diggs isn't going to take another year of heartbreak if they don't do well this season.
The tough thing I feel like with New York is I could see this situation being very similar to when Brady went to the Bucks. And so he was there, 3 years, I think? Yeah, 3 years. And that team had talent before he got there. That's why he went there. And now they're in a position of without Brady, we've kind of got nothing. And I don't want to see the same thing happen to the Jets when Rodgers inevitably hangs them up potentially in 2-3 years down the road. I don't want to see this team just go from reaching this high to just dropping back down to a laughingstock of the league because they were there for so long, and these fans are devoted fans and deserve to have a team to root for, especially in a city like New York. But I just that's my big worry with this team is that happening.
Yeah, I'll you build a super team like the Rams did, and then
Right.
They're irrelevant the next year.
I mean, hey, listen, the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it. The Bucks got a Super Bowl out of it. So if you get a Super Bowl, maybe it's
Might be worth it.
I guess it's worth it. But the problem is, you look at the Chiefs, who are contenders every year, and part of that is because they hit the draft lottery with Patrick Mahomes. But they've done such a good job of continuing to build that team, and you've got a great coach in Andy Reid, and so they're positioned to be contenders for as long as Patrick Mahomes is there. I don't know if the Jets there's no longevity to the Jets' plan currently in my mind, because you don't have anybody to take over the mantle once Rodgers hangs it up, which maybe it'll be Zach Wilson. Maybe they'll draft well and get a quarterback, but I don't know. Right now, I feel like they're set up to fall off when he is done, just like the Rams, just like the Bucs. But we'll see. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. Go ahead and click that subscribe and follow button. If you're listening to us in your car on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, whatever you're doing, we appreciate it. We love you. We have socials, I think. Definitely have an Instagram. I know that because I just made it last week or 2 weeks ago at Booth Review Sports. Whatever Twitter is now called, we do have one of those at Booth Review Pod. Facebook, all of that. Not super active on any of them. Come hang out in the Discord. The link
I'm
for that.
working on it.
The link for the Discord is in the description, so come hang out in there and talk some football with us. But we appreciate you guys hanging around and listening to us just jibber jabber on a weekly basis. We love you, and we'll be back for week 2 next week.
Ka-chow.